All right, we're live. And we're recording.
Good morning, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the live Outcast Haven podcast. Early in the morning for us. We're drinking coffee. A little disappointed in Blake. Can't drink all day if you don't start with a beer right now. So, I mean, that's out the window already. We had this amazing podcast that we recorded Thursday evening.
It was really fucking good, actually. I'm really upset that we lost it. Like our
but
last
so
couple...
much has changed since then.
Yeah.
The world has changed since we recorded that. So that's why I didn't open the same way, because it just feels wasted. Feels wasted.
More
I will
whiners.
say-
More whiners than I was expecting. Not really.
I will say we have a lot to talk about in a short amount of time. Well, it's the same amount of time as always, but sounds a little bit more,
No, you said you got to leave. You got to leave in 50 minutes. So that puts a backstop on it.
But here's the deal. I want to open with something that was not on our original topic, and this is something that we're going to discuss in next week's episode. And that is Brendan. There's a small channel called Arsenal Pass. Not many people have heard of it. If you ever get a chance, just look it up. It's a little channel about flesh and blood.
Pretty good.
Posted a tweeter saying set 1 4 heroes, set 2 3 to 4 heroes, set 3 supplemento, rotate. In my opinion on that was, I haven't heard that brought up in a while. I'm not. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm just gonna give you my comment on the post. My comment on the post was that the meta is really strong and there's a lot of variety, and it's in, I like it. And his reply was, that doesn't make it interesting, which I thought it did. But I want people's opinion on rotation. And then we want like 50, 60, 70 comments on this. Andrew, they can't all be yours. So we're only going to take your first one on this subject matter. We appreciate all your comments, but only one on this subject matter are we counting for our 50 comments. And that is for next week's podcast. And then we'll give our opinions on set rotation. And I want to dive into that a little bit because it's interesting and that's been brought up for a while. But other than that, I know we had this really great agenda, but why don't we just start with the ban and restricted, and then let's move on to Auckland RTN that just got done not too long ago. And then I'll look at the show notes once I find them, and we'll discuss other stuff that we had on there from there.
Well, I think the banned and restricted is interesting because, to me, the irony about it is all we heard about before the banned and restricted was fi. Then after the restricted, all we heard was fi. But it was the two different groups. Before, it was people who didn't play fi. After, it was everybody who did play fi. And it was this uncontrollable sobbing and heartbreak about how, you let Starvo live for so long. Why did you take stubby hammers from us? And just to be clear, I will continue to say stubby hammers out loud because my brain makes me feel weird when I say hammerers, but it is hammerers. And I couldn't believe how many people... When I tweeted that, just as a joke, I tweeted, if you don't follow me, what I said basically was that I think LSS actually banned stubby hammerers because people refuse to pronounce the second ER, and James White was like, enough is enough. If you don't use it right, you don't get to keep it. That's how it works. So he took it away from us because we refused to use it correctly. And the number of people whose minds were absolutely broken by the fact that there are 2 ERs on there makes me believe that this might be the first flesh and blood instance of the Mandala effect, where everybody is 100% certain that it was stubby hammers. And now we all look back and go, wait, it was always hammerers?
Yeah. It's so funny to me because stubby hammers, like my response to you, because you had shared that, you had tweeted that in our chat, and my response was like, apparently all of these people, and it's like comparing like a hammer, like not knowing what a hammer is and what pauldron or what fucking bracers are.
Yeah. It's clearly a bracer of some sort, and
Well, it's an arms, so unless
Yeah.
unless it's saying that if you take this equipment, your character has hammers for arms, that naming convention doesn't make sense. Stubby hammers. That is funny.
I will say I watched a lot of the Auckland RTN last night. The pivot hammerer turn, and I'll be honest, I never ever said hammerers until just now.
Yeah.
First time I've used it like that. So after watching the Auckland RTN last night, the pivot turns using stubby hammerers was what the break points are insane just because it's so unblockable that it basically tilted the game on that turn. The only time it didn't is Jordan going against Oldham, and Oldham was like, I don't care, I'm just gonna strip your hand anyway. But other than that, that pivot turn just won games. So it's a good ban. And we had talked about this. I posted people complaining about it. They screwed up and didn't ban stuff on Starville soon enough. I mean, they did ban Autumn's Touch, the most worthless ban in the history of banning. Or didn't ban, they suspended it. It got suspended. Yeah. Kind of like some local stores that we've heard about. But anyway, they fixed the problem now. So instead of just having that same issue come up again, let's just fix it proactively instead of reactively. So
yeah, I don't get the big complaint about Fi. The only thing I can think about is it makes me think of the whole situation, right? That I think card games fall into. And I actually mentioned it yesterday in a couple group chats, how one of the things that I appreciate about certain group chats that I'm in is the ability to think logically and actually admit certain problems and issues with games and a design flaw or something that needs to be fixed in a deck that a person plays. Because that's my big gripe, I think, more than anything in this situation, is it just continues to further prove that the problem with card game players is that a lot of time people just don't care if their deck is the problem because it's their deck and they want to win and they like to play it. They don't care if they're degenerate, but they will literally never shut up if it's the other person's deck. If you sit across somebody who plays what you consider a degenerate deck, and that person sucks and they're the worst and that deck's just the worst, and it's like, just like, it doesn't work like that. You can't have it both ways, right? You can't. It's like being a sports fan and complaining about somebody else's fan base because they're the worst, but never looking at your fan base and realizing that you, in fact, are a part of the worst fan base.
Dude, that's like, literally what society is. That's all that everyone does all the time. It's like, wow, you guys suck. It's like, have you looked at yourself? And I'm saying you suck, and same thing. Like, it's literally how society works.
And I fully agree that that's how society is, but I feel like as card game players, we should prove that, hey, we're smart, we're intelligent people. I understand that, but we play a game that's a thinking man's game, right? That's what we do. We think all the time about this game.
No, shouldn't we? Either.
Can we just have the wherewithal to be like, hey, let's think of ourselves as better than everybody else, and maybe try to be the elevated class of society. No, it's not going to happen. I get it.
Like that's like the root of the problem. Is like, think about yourself like you're better than everyone else. It's like, done. I mean, already do that.
Meanwhile, in Fab, the only people who think that they're better than everyone else and they know everything and their cards shouldn't get banned are the people who eat crayons while they play their decks, which is hilarious.
That's not true either, man. Because like,
let's get into that. So
yeah,
I found our topics that we were going to cover. So I'll just go over a couple of them right now since we're still early. So no coverage at the calling yet. We had, even though the internet kept dropping, we had great coverage all day yesterday and into the night for us in the U.S. for the RTN in Auckland. James White came on. He answered one of the questions that I asked. So that was pretty amazing. Then we have our local Cody. He had a controversial take about just giving away wins. I think we do the competitive thing next week. And then Fi, we kind of already talked about him, but we'll talk about him now because no coverage of the calling. Huge disappointment. Yeah. And people had bitched about, well, if it's not great, don't put it on. Totally disagree. So last night's Auckland RTN was covered.
Battle hardened, just for clarification, Jason.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Battle
What do I
hardened,
keep saying? Yeah, battle
RTN.
hardened.
It's fine.
Yeah. So battle hardened, and you had Kieran commenting and doing the commentating, and he is, I don't care who you are, he is probably one of the best. He knows the game great. He will never question the player. He'll be like, well, he might have this line in mind. Like, he doesn't be like, oh, why the fuck did you do that? He does a very good job of just calling them as he sees them. He had James White come on, and I will tell you, because Blake always wants confirmation when we tell a story. So if I say something, he's like, where is this confirmed? And I am confirming this out of James White's mouth. I asked, will we see adult versions of more of the young heroes? And his response was, yes, we're going to take fan favorites. Obviously, he didn't tell you when or who, but they're going to come. And we are going to see them. And to me, that was great news, because that means there's a possibility of Kasai, there's a possibility of Cheyenne, there's a possibility of Benji, Volda. That had me excited.
Yeah, I like that idea too, of like listening to people in terms of even some of the positive design stuff. I think a lot of times in card games we perceive it as they only listen to us or they don't listen to us at all when it comes to bans and negative situations. And that's what they're listening to the community for, is when something's going wrong or when something's an issue. But I like that idea of saying, you know what, we're going to listen to people on what they love, on what they enjoy. And they don't have to do it. It could be a while, because if they're listening to what people enjoy, like, they're way down the line on a lot of these design things. But I think that's a fun space to play in, trying to find fan favorites. I would love it if they got Kasai and they could, make a deck for her and a function that works where she can have some really huge swing turns. Because I feel like a lot of times that's one of the things that she does well that other Guardians don't, is she's a very efficient deck in how she functions because of her second saber being free. Her damage output is
warrior deck.
Yeah, a warrior. Yeah, she's like much more on curve and on, like parity with a lot of the other heroes' damage outputs, where sometimes Dory and Bolton feel like they're much more disruptible in terms of when they run into ice decks. Sometimes they can run into issues because their cost curve is a little tighter, where she gets 2 free damage every turn. So you have to figure, if they're holding a blue and a Blade Runner, they actually have the extra resource. If you give them a Frostbite or try to disrupt them off of a 2-card hand, Kasai can swing her saber, Blade Runner, and then her second saber for 3, 4, 5. So it's 2 cards for 5 to 7 damage that's split up between 2 cards, which is really good. It's a really efficient deck, and stuff like that. It would be cool to see that in Constructed and how it would come to fruition.
Do you think she would need changes? I don't even think she would need changes.
No. I mean, there's going to be people that are going to find broken stuff on these young heroes eventually, but
I think just in her card pool, she would need a little more beefing up.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry,
I thought you meant like
give her a second. Yeah,
I thought you were talking about adjusting
not her design
ability or something.
No.
Gotcha.
I like her ability. I like her hero design. I think it's more I think in the card pool, you'd have to give her a second specialization that would help her somehow, and just stuff like that. Get her on par with other heroes.
So then, that was like a Q&A he did during like round 6 or 7. So last night, the top 8 went 4 5s, 2 Bravos, an Oldham, and a Briar. So no Prisms, which 5 pretty much locks out. I did the first round, they did have a Prism matchup, and the Prism almost took it. I mean, it was a really, really, the pivot turn, there was one big pivot turn by Fi, and that's what Fi does, is they're consistent damage. So if they have that one big output turn, which the banning of Stubby Hammers will take down, the deck's still good, but it's going to be a little bit harder just to blow somebody out turn 2 or 3.
Yeah,
I'll be honest,
and get them way down.
I hate this limbo more than anything. It's like just Living Legender, because I can't stand this whole like, ooh, is that this time? Oh, it's like, God damn it, man.
I think
painful.
I think the meta's fine right now that don't love Living Legender, because if somebody can
that's just a 2 points
get
away
through
thing.
the pool of 5s, they're going to end up top 8 with a bunch of Guardians, and that Prism will be in a pretty good spot in a top 8 with a bunch of Guardians as the Guardians continue to
Figure
rise.
out,
And I think
Rise of the
and
Guardians.
I think they will continue to rise. The Rise of the Guardians. I think if there isn't a movie called that, they should come out with it. It would be amazing.
Sounds like a good movie title for sure.
I would be all about it. I'd probably watch it right away.
Kale ended up taking it down with Bravo in the middle of the night.
10-0 like a monster.
Yeah, no losses. I am going to play that here shortly in a little money tournament in about a 2-hour drive from home. Just because I haven't been down there for like a year, so I'm going to go down to Atlantis and play Bravo, because I haven't played Bravo for a while. I made the wrong call at the RTN by going Lexi over Bravo, and Bravo would have been the smart call.
Can we talk about how great it is to watch Kale play Bravo? And I love how he understands how tight and important the timeline is, and just playing with efficiency so you don't just sit there and get kind of bored or start to lose focus in that Guardian. And he's played it so much. Like, I don't know if anybody has watched it. Dane, I don't know if you watched it. I watched some of it this morning, and watching him play that matchup was hilarious, because Winton would kind of like block him and then take a minute to look at his hand, and Kale would just throw cards. He'd shove the block cards or the hammer out of the way. He'd put his hammer into the combat chain, throw his cards into the pitch zone, and just be like, go, come on, let's go, block this thing, let's go. And there was zero thought on Kale's side. He's so practiced with the Guardian Mirror that he was just rifling through it. It was incredible. I love watching Kale play Bravo. It's like everything I want, you know.
Jacob, I know it is.
Yeah, I was just gonna comment. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate your input.
Appreciate it, Jacob.
Thank you.
I love that movie.
I played Kale on TTS practicing before, and the ping in the leg, I can't. Like, we've played games where they literally have been 8-9 minutes long, because they go so fast, and it's so hard to keep up with him, because he'll already have arsenal, everything pitched down before, like, boom, 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 everything's already organized, ready to go. No, it's very fast, and that is what happens when you play one deck, is you become very practiced. You know what cards you want at what time, and it makes it for easy blocks. So it was awesome. Just in general, big disappointment not seeing the calling Utrecht. It was disappointing not seeing that. It was amazing to see the OG commentating crew, essentially, with Kieran and whoever else he brings on, calling the Battle Hardened event. So that was a really, really fun to watch. So next, we have our own local boy, Cody. Posted on the Twitter. Oh my God, my dog. She just is freaking out because people are outside. Posts on the Twitter about... Now my brain just fried and went dry because I'm listening to my dog bark in the background, and it just completely sucked every bit of life from your soul when that happens.
This is the quality you get with a live show.
Yeah. So he posted that if he's at a table, he's not gonna lift for a friend to give them a national invite with the PTI.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want me to read the verbatim?
Yeah, if you have the verbatim, go ahead, read that bad boy.
Here we go. But he said, I will never scoop in order to give someone a better chance at qualification or an invite to a higher level event. Sure, let people sell or gift invites, but all this conceding in order to advance others ruins ELO and the competitive spirit. I can't be alone here. Turns out Cody was very alone there. In the grand scheme of the community.
I can't be alone here. Oh, yeah, you can. No.
I can't be alone here, crickets.
I think we all tried to step in, and basically, because I think we all conceptually agree with that, right? Like, I don't like the fact that the order of the top 8s or whatever is taking place there is not true to life, right? Because people at some point in there have scooped to a friend, and someone's gotten a win that maybe they shouldn't have. I don't know, but that I don't like that aspect of it.
I think the thing that he said to me that stuck out that I don't understand why it's again a prime example of people on the internet reading a sentence and then making a judgment 100% on the first line, which was they read I will never scoop to give someone a better chance, and then just absolutely lost their minds. They didn't even read the second part where he talked about it messes with elo and the competitive spirit of the game. It messes with different things. I think that's actually
with LL.
Yeah, it messes with LL. We talked about that, how it screws up the idea of giving the points out correctly to the heroes that deserve to win. There were multiple people that I saw alone on Twitter and Facebook who said, I scooped to a friend, or I let a friend get this one because they needed the win, or I gave, and that messes with Living Legend points, which is kind of the whole adds like a part of the authenticity to the game's power level and stuff. Because I said this when we recorded the podcast, and I'll just reiterate it because it's that important to me. I saw at least one person who said they scooped to their friend to give them the win.
Yep.
And then
they were a Prism
on
player.
Prism.
Yeah.
Which means that we literally live in a world right now where Prism will not die for another 3 months at least, or 2 months at least, because we have to get a Nationals win out of her and then get to the next BNR before she'll move to Living Legend. So we literally live in a false meta. This is a false meta. It's a false god. We serve a false god in Prism. The Light Demon sits on the throne, and she's allowed to live in all because somebody, I don't know.
We got Copy Cody in the comments saying now scoopers. No complaints against Prism.
Scoopers.
Yeah.
Here's something funny though. You made a great point. This makes me laugh. That people had to post that they scooped to their friend. Like you can't just scoop to your buddy to do this nice thing. I can't be like, oh, I scooped for him.
That's funny.
Now you got to go out on social media, be like, I probably would have won today, but
scoop to a buddy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking scooped. I scooped to my good buddy Billy.
Yeah.
Billy fucking he didn't do shit after I scooped to him. He lost immediately.
Old dog shit Billy, as we call him at the club. Old dog shit Billy had to, needed a bone. So,
I mean, that's probably the best part. Like that's probably the best part about it, right? Is that the people who are posting about scooped to a friend, it's like that weird thing when somebody it's the social media equivalent.
$1 million, and then I'm gonna post it on my Instagram. Just did this because I'm super rich.
Yeah.
Felt bad for no big deal.
Well, and it's just the same as when you get done with a game and somebody beats you and you're like, oh yeah, I really punted that one. It's like what? No, I won the game. Just because you lost doesn't mean you actively caused the loss.
It's going back. It goes back
for me.
It goes back to the very beginning when like how shitty it is afterwards to be like, oh, I didn't see any of my channel mount heroics, or actually that's a bad example because that is a reason that Briar loses. But I mean, like whenever you complain about like how unlucky you got, it's like you are completely discrediting the fact that they beat you to their face. Yeah. How is that not a shitty thing? That is a shitty thing. Yeah. Don't do that. Like, don't be like,
you can also.
If I had one more resource, fucking Kano players. If I had one more resource, I would have done 75 damage to you. It's like, cool, you didn't though. So eat shit.
Legitimate. That sucks.
Yeah.
As a Kano player losing by one life. Oh god, that sucks. I don't have to go out and talk about it, but you look and do your math. You're like, fuck. If I had one more resource,
I get that sucks. It's the talking about it, like how, like or Blake does a thing which I've come to appreciate. But when he first started doing it, I was like, what the fuck is like? Every time he would kill me, he'd be like, oh, also I could have done this and this and this and killed you 4 different ways if you had blocked this. It's like you beat me. I don't know who you're doing this for, but I'm cool with you not laying out the 4 other ways that you could have also killed me. He's like,
it's good for you to
grow. I know, and that's why I appreciate it now. But in the beginning, I'm talking in the beginning, Blake would do that shit, and I'd be like, "What are you doing?" Like,
look,
I'm new here.
I have a really good reason for doing that. I always do that because in my mind, I'm actually trying to like portray the fact that you didn't lose because you made a wrong decision. I had an out, even if you had the right decision. I played to like a line where I had two paths to victory because I don't think you could have had a stop for both paths. So I was playing to like a double path to victory.
In my brain,
I wasn't trying to make
in my
you feel
brain,
bad.
it was more like Blake just dropped the people's elbow, and I'm on the mat, and you've got me pinned to the ground, and then you lean down and whisper in my ear, "I could have also rear naked choked your ass, you pussy bitch." Like it's like I don't. Great, you beat me for sure. Like.
That's what you're supposed to do in combat sports. You're supposed to double win.
I know.
That should be the new thing. That should be the new thing is as soon as your opponent says, well, I drew bad, you'd be like, well, here's the deal.
That's okay. 100%.
I could have killed you 3 turns ago. I let you live because I felt bad for you. Okay? So maybe you drew bad. I felt bad for your ass. I could have beat you 3 turns ago. Does that make you feel better? No. Fucking suck it. And then just throw your cards everywhere, walk away. Yeah, X them up a little bit. Obviously, don't do that. If you do, I would appreciate it if somebody records it. We'll post it on the channel. But don't do that.
Yeah. We'll definitely highlight it if somebody actually won a match of Fab, stood up and hit someone with the Degeneration X suck it, and then just walked away and left everything there. I would tweet that. I would if they just leave it. Their cards are still on the table. They just leave the building.
Commoner, because they can just leave.
Yeah.
It doesn't even
matter. We've got an open slot for like our channel promo video right now that we don't have a channel promo video on. That could just be the channel promo video if you do that.
Channel promo.
So
you took down a really bad one and never replaced it with anything. It was so bad. It was it was so bad it should have probably been left up. That's how bad it was.
I can put it back up. We still have it.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. It's so bad. Just really awkward and bad.
The thing is, though, is like people coming to the channel new. That's what they see, and that is not what I want them to see. It's funny for everyone that's already with us, but I've actually for episode 100 doing like a little revamp, like a relaunch. I've got a really cool idea for like a cinematic thing I want to do. It's gonna be great, but we'll talk about that after the fact.
I'm gonna throw something in because Blake didn't want to talk about it, so we're gonna talk about it.
Oh, I love that.
And because it's just garnered so much attention, and there's been a lot of fun responses, and by fun I mean very controversial. People like clawing at each other. It's been great. So there was obviously that did some wrongdoings and they got the BNR restricted for their LGS.
Blake didn't want to talk about this. I also didn't want to talk
about
it.
I'm not going to say anybody's names. I'm not going to say anybody's names.
Okay. All right.
But obviously everybody knows, if you had any social media, you know that there was a store that was banned because they have their own podcast and were very speculative in the fact that you make people believe things. And this was my only complaint about Rudy early on, is he would very much control the market by things he says. And so if you have people that get more attention and make themselves a market video and say they're a market type podcast, you will have influence over the market. Now, in real life, being stocks, bonds, I mean, even Mad Money, he can't even buy or do things on things he mentions on his shows for 30 days because he did get a huge fine like 5-10 years ago for market manipulation. So that is the main reason why LSS did what they did, is because they were passing false information, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And you can't say, well, we thought our sources were good. That is not an excuse. The onus is on you. If you are going to say something,
you took the shot. Yeah, you're the one who took the shot.
Right. You need to make sure. So if you're going with this controversial thing and you have this source, you better make sure that's true. And then I didn't know it wasn't true. I thought it was. Nope. That is not.
It's not how this works.
It's
not how any of this works. Like, you gotta. Right. That's why people vet sources so fucking discriminatorily, whatever the fuck that word is. Like, they're so discriminating when it comes to their sources.
We'll come back.
Yeah. Well, we can't because it's live. But
I just think
just cut this part out. Just cut that part out. Like, Dane, nobody's watching. It's just the 3 of us. Just come back, cut that little piece out. Nobody will know.
Yeah, man.
I think
go ahead.
I was just going to say my whole thing with the situation, and this is kind of like what we've talked in our group chat, and we had this discussion. I even, talked to my wife a little bit about it, and I was like, we're not crazy about this, right? Like, this feels like our approach to this, our attitude about this is right. I think my big thing is, at the end of the day, if you do something that negatively interacts with a company, right? I think my perfect example would be, you're a professional athlete. McDonald's goes, hey, man, we want to sponsor you. Like, we want you to be the face of our company. And they go, yeah, we want to interact with you. We want to have a business partnership with you. And then you go on Twitter or on TikTok or God knows where, and you're on a video and you're eating like a double cheeseburger from McDonald's, and you're like, this tastes like dog shit. And this Coke that they have tastes like cat piss.
Better yet,
like,
you go on social media and you're like, I think that McDonald's partnership with Channel Fireball is one of the reasons that Channel Fireball went bankrupt. Like, that would be
right. But I'm saying, like,
my sources though, my sources. Like,
you're a professional athlete, and you're saying, like, you just talk bad about somebody that you have a business partnership with. Why would that person want to continue a business partnership with you? And if anything, wouldn't they go as far as to say, not only do we not want to have a partnership with you, we would like you to never speak of us again, and we're actually going to sue you for defamation. Like, it's within the legal realm to, like, talk defamation lawsuits. Like,
I want to clarify though that we don't think, like, LSS has made it clear that they don't mind people that have negative feedback for them. Like, it's not because someone had a really dumb comment about, like, oh, Arsenal Pass is probably sweating because they were talking negatively about LSS. I'm like, no, like, we talk shit literally all the time. It's like a 1 in 4 episodes where we're beginning. That's literally all we did, and they sent us cold foil heroes before they were a thing. Like all we did was like complain about not having like competitive events.
Like, how do I look in my new dress? We're like, it's kind of shitty. That's fine. Here, cold foil hero.
The important thing is that we were like, it looks shitty. It would be better if you finished the trim. Like, that would be great and make that dress look nice. And that's like, that was all we. So the thing is that it is just
hanging out below the dress. Didn't look good. Tuck them up in there. Much better look.
I didn't want to talk about this because I've already come to the conclusion that if you are defending them, then there is no rationalizing the fact that you've already made your decision. You're not. I can't rationalize with you and say there is more to the story than they like said this one thing and then apologized immediately for it. It's like, well, one, you know that's not what happened. Like, you know that they talked more shit than just like an offhanded comment. Because I'm assuming that people did their research and looked into it. Oh, Dane. How apologizing work? Yeah, here. People want me to grab.
Will Smith,
can I
Will
grab
Smith just came out and apologized for slapping the shit out of Chris Rock.
Oh yeah, no one's allowed to be mad at him. There's no repercussions.
Should we get rid of the 10-year ban? Yeah,
he apologized.
He's good now.
That's how apologies work.
Yep, everything's good. Nothing bad happens.
Everybody in baseball in the steroid era, tons of them did formal apologies in front of a thing. And you know what? It's cool that they're all in the Hall of Fame now. So that none of them
because that was some of let's
be
ever seen in my life.
And I think that you should allow steroids in professional sports. But
let's be fair. And as a general rule, everybody wants sports at the highest level. That's why nobody wants like certain rules instituted, because they're like, look, man, we don't want the shift. Let them just keep ripping. Let's just keep ripping singles so that way the scores are double digits every game. Baseball's more fun when it's dinger central, like,
Yep.
You gotta have the pitchers take it too,
Yeah.
Let them all back up.
Just even up. It's as long as it's fair, it doesn't matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, as long as everyone's juicing. If you don't want to juice, that's on you, man.
But back to the apologizing thing. What we're trying to get. Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. The most interesting thing that I haven't seen in this community is content creators going after essentially other content creators in this thing.
That's what you haven't seen?
Yeah, like
it's
happening.
Yeah,
there's been an article written about it, and Fluke in the Box just put something out. I haven't watched it, but I'm guessing it's in defense of LSS, especially since he just had a big conversation with James White, and
that's the best part. And the thing that I don't think people get is that you don't have to be like butt buddies with LSS. They're not that type of company where it's like we're all living in fear of being canceled, right? Like you don't have to. You just don't be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And you're fine. Like you can talk negative all you want. Arsenal pass, they're gonna be fine. Guess what? They're not even concerned vaguely with a threat from LSS because they don't have any reason to be. LSS is reasonable. As much as you don't want to hear this, Compete Sport defenders, they're reasonable. Like they just are.
Yeah. I think that the big issue, right, is that it's the time we live in where people they choose their side and they're incapable of ever listening to the other side a lot of times, but everybody puts an article out about it. Everybody says something about it. But to Jason's point, what makes like Fab or this game's community at large in a weird space is that historically up to this point, people have kind of tried to stay as neutral as possible. They want to sit directly on the fence. They don't want to go either direction. They never want to pick a side because they're concerned about it being a small community. Because, again, as much as we want to believe that Fab is the biggest game, that we're going to topple Magic, that's it, guys. Look, one day, could we get there? Sure, I believe that. But this is the equivalent of believing that 15 years ago, Hyundai was going to topple Ford. We're still not there yet, okay? Ford is still a bigger company, and Hyundai is still a little company. No matter how efficient and affordable they make their little economic cars, Ford is still the big daddy, and they get all the government money. So they never have an issue with keeping the doors open to their factories. Wizards is huge, right? LSS is not a massive company. The community is not as big as the Magic community, and fairly, I think content creators who have patrons or getting money from the community are concerned about the fact that if they tip one way or the other, they're going to rock the boat. They're going to put themselves in a bad space with a group of people, and they're going to lose some of their support. That's part of the reason that we've never really had an issue saying whatever we want. Nobody gives us any money, so guess what? If we hurt your feelings, we apologize. We hope that you don't. No, we don't actually.
If
apologize.
we hurt your feelings, we're doing it because we want to,
apologize.
not because we feel we have to.
It's our honest opinion. We're going to give you our honest opinion. We are authentic, if nothing else. And if you don't like it, we're sorry that we're being authentic, but we're not sorry about what we said.
So
really ever.
Yeah. So yeah, I like that the shift that we're seeing with content creators like starting to be okay with saying, because I feel like that was a big issue in the beginning too, was like you said, yeah, they were super just vanilla, I guess. I don't know, but like we've seen a lot more of that, which is great.
It's okay to be honest. It's okay to say what you say, and if people don't like it, it's fine. It's not a big get over it. Grow up.
Yeah. So
they hurt your feelings out of love.
Devin, they hurt your feelings out of love. That's what we do, guys. We hurt your feelings out of love. If we make you feel bad, we do it because we love you.
Yeah. You're telling me.
The only part.
You know what? This is the problem, because I'm thinking about dads now. Like, if your dad never hurt your feelings, you probably support Compete Sports.
It's that, you know what it is? It's that
100%.
You need to have, everyone needs to have that moment. Have you guys seen the meme where it's like Ben Affleck outside smoking?
And it's the little Ben Affleck next to
There's
him.
a little bit of like, it's like you and it's like me and my dad outside after we fixed the car for 4 hours, and he screamed at me for not holding the flashlight right.
Yeah.
It's just two Ben Affleck sitting outside like.
I'm finding that right now, and I'm pulling this shit up.
I just read something. This is hilarious. So, out of this whole thing, I did a yawn meme, at the first one that was posted about this whole thing, like them defending themselves, Compete Sports defending themselves. I got a response that said, "You have small balls," okay, which is very random to a yawn post. So I responded, "The bravery in your statement, I commend you," right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I proceeded on the next post to put the same yawn thing, and then tagged this Will who said I have small balls, and said, "Here's another one to try again," because the first one basically failed. But now, God, tall Timmy, gotta love the guy. He posts in response to Will, "You must have very high standards because the balls I saw in New Jersey were more than ample." God, I love tall Timmy. Coming to my defense. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. But just I know someone with you. Now we're getting into the ball conversation. We don't need to get in the balls conversation, but I agree with Dane 100%. Like my son, I've told him plenty of times, you suck today. Like you played horribly. And at first they fight you on it. And then they realize, and I recorded stuff for him and show him, yes, I did suck. I did suck. It has no bearing on the size of a person's balls, but yes, you can tell them that, they suck. So yeah, I will also ask, is there a standard definition rate of size of balls and which makes a small, a medium, and a large balls?
I mean, I think that there's a certain point too where you have to be concerned about the size in either direction.
You don't want to go South Park where you're bouncing on them going into the marijuana shop because you don't need
a dude. If you got a wheelbarrow that thing around, it's a problem.
This meme, I'm gonna pull it up. People that are smaller than they're supposed to be makes me fucking giggle so hard. But this is the meme that we were talking about.
People that are smaller than they supposed to be.
So if it's a big human man, but he's like miniaturized or something,
he's shrunk down.
Fucking silly.
I gotta watch it. I saw he posted it. He had said that he was gonna post it. He tweeted about it. I'm gonna watch it because it looks like anybody that's a friend with Paul, the tall Timmy, is a friend of mine because it's amazing. See, we just see it now.
Oh yeah,
I know. We just caught it up.
It's gonna be super late and not line up at all with the live stream. So we've turned this into a ball conversation. So if there's any doctors that want to weigh into the ball schematics.
How strict is the 2-ball thing? Is that a third one's bad?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
A third one might be bad. One is fine. It happens sometimes. Accidents. My cousin lost one in a stunt bike accident where he crashed and caught a handlebar wrong, and now we call him the uniballer.
The uniballer, as good cousins should. Okay. Anyways, let's wrap it. Let's get back on some sort of semblance of topic. So the number of competitive
was a topic, but
so have we talked about the volume?
There's a lot. The volume of competitive play is huge right now.
Very high.
So I know that
I love competitive events, but I think even competitive players, you can kind of get the sense that they're like, man, and I don't think it's even that they don't want to play. I think some people are hitting, like you're seeing competitive players, good competitive players, mention that they almost feel a sense of burnout or they're losing some of the enjoyment of the game. They're having a really hard time feeling locked in or enjoying their experiences.
Yeah, follow Tyler Horspool on Twitter. Like he has been pretty vocal about that whole progression through that. So
there's a lot. There's a lot of tournaments. It's hard to make them all, and then So do you think this feeds into the whole FOMO issue of when you have these big events, then people kind of force feed them to want to make them? Because if you're chasing and you want to be known as the best, you can't miss big events.
Right.
Luckily, I don't have that issue. I know I'll never be the best. I don't have to chase the best. I go to events where I can meet people from the other side of the world that I normally cannot talk to. So it's fun for that aspect. I enjoy the social aspect, having fun, hanging out with Australians and New Zealanders and Swedeners and Germaners and all the different people that we meet at these. Yeah. But I don't feel like I need to go to every calling. I don't feel like no plans. I know none of us had plans to go to nationals pretty much. Because Worlds, I'd rather go to Worlds and meet the people you don't get to see every day.
Yeah.
So it's tough to chase it. It's really tough to chase it, and it will lead to a little burnout. So I don't know if what do they do? You can't really cool it down, can you?
No, I don't think they're going to cool it down. I'm curious if we don't get to a point where maybe it starts to be treated more like how golf and tennis have their situations right, like if we can have certain things that are almost considered like the grand slams, like the big events, these are the ones you have to make. You have to make the opens, you have to make the US Open, you have to make the Masters. Those are the ones that you need to show up and you need to compete in. And then other than that, everything else kind of feels like, to Chris's point, we need to change the mentality that you need to do everything and you have to win or be good at everything. Look at some of the players in some of these sports like tennis and golf that have big opens and then have a lot of minor events.
They don't,
They don't do everything. They play in some the big circuit events and then they'll play in tune-up events sometimes. So that might be the mentality people need to get to is, you know what, I don't have to make every Pro Tour event, but I need to make at least one a year and do well to make a name for myself. And then maybe people realize or have an attitude where they go, you know what, I played in the Pro Tour, the first Pro Tour this year, and I didn't do very well, and that definitely feels bad. I want to play in another one to kind of, make sure that my glory and my namesake is still.
To that point, you should be able to get to a level where instead of having to earn a PTI or an invite every season, that because you competed at a level so high, you get a tour card essentially. That for this year,
I mean, that's
for
way
2023.
Down. That'll be down the road.
You can compete. You don't need to go and grind RTNs. You've already proven your worth as a good player. Here's your tour card. I have no problem with that. And that can be at their discretion. I don't care because I think they'll pick, who's good. Yeah. And if you're complaining that you didn't get one, you're probably just not very good. And you need the daddy meme to come back up again because you need to realize what level you are at as well.
Right. I think that will be something where we eventually get to the point where there's enough input into the ELO system that the ELO system becomes that kind of registered system where they go, anybody who hits this threshold, the top 10 ELO players or the top 25 ELO players in the world just automatically have an open invitation to play at X event.
January 1st, it does the roll up.
You'd have to make it like
quarterly or
50
after
to 75 per area, per zone.
Right.
You know what I mean? US, Australia. Europe would have to be split a little bit, but I think they just need to change it a little bit. And that will come with time. They're still a young company, young company.
Hold on.
Something that I want to talk about again. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, are you being critical, Jason, of the fact that their system's not perfect?
Do you remember my PSA? Do you remember my PSA I did like a year ago?
I'm just saying, should we be afraid? Should we be afraid that we're going to get banned?
Don't.
We're going to get blacklisted.
It's calling somebody's babies ugly, and some babies are ugly. They grow out of it usually.
Most babies are ugly.
Yes,
I'm not a baby guy.
There is some adorable ones, but yes, a majority babies are.
I pictured like Blake in like a boss baby body. Like I'm not a baby guy. Like literally a baby guy.
I'll tell you what my father-in-law said when Mason was born. He goes, "Not too ugly, not too bad." That realization that babies are ugly. He's like, it's not a terrible looking one.
They look weird, man. They come out weird.
It's not horrible, which is a compliment because it's honesty, and we all know that babies are ugly. So even your baby's ugly. So if you have a fresh baby that you're looking at him, you're probably looking at an ugly baby. It just happens.
I do want to re-hit and talk about at least again the sporadic, inconsistent vibe that I get from the competitive layout right now. It feels like it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Like I wish it was just more, and maybe this is just my mentality about it needs to change to where it's like I don't care about skirmishes, so I will not partake or listen to it all because that's all blitz. But when it comes to RTNs and there's callings and then there's the Pro Tour and Nationals, and it's like it feels like there's a lot of different things happening, and within all of those things there's different formats that each of them could or could not be, and it feels like it's just my list making order and organizational brain hates it a lot, and maybe that's just my mentality needs to change, but I would love it if there was more of a like set in stone, this is what's going to be when, this is yearly. You can expect a calling in July and August, and then if you qualify, nationals will be every November, and worlds will be in December, end of December, whatever it is.
Yeah,
it's coming.
It does. Yeah, I think it's coming too. It does feel like
baby company. They're still ugly, Dane. They're still ugly.
It does feel like they're.
And there's going to be like
still,
every calling will be draft and CC split. That just is. It's not, well, is this calling fucking UPF or is it? I know that's not a thing, but I just don't like.
I would have sealed skirmishes. Much better, Chris. Would take that.
Sealed.
Oh, yeah. That would be great.
I will say I didn't realize until Kiki posted. They posted that they did a skirmish and they were playing sealed and then top 8 was draft. I was completely unaware that was an actual skirmish format. But again, I think that goes to Dane's point, which is I pay close attention to everything and I just wasn't aware because there's so many formats and so many different events and styles and how they host everything. And again, I get they're working things out. I have no issue with them working things out. I do hope that there becomes a little more symmetry to how events are run and not every
that's a good way to put it.
I don't mind that the calling was Team Blitz in Vegas. That was fun, but I would rather that be a battle hardened.
I didn't even talk about Battle Harden's a new thing too. So that's super exciting that we have another tournament series that is a different thing that it's also changing. Like,
Minnesota, so don't talk about that.
What's that?
Don't do that. There's one in Minnesota. We're gonna.
Battle Harden's the greatest. Battle Hardens are amazing.
What's next? What's the next one? What's it gonna be called? The next big event.
I just wish that they
series.
would use Battle Hardened and callings, and they would line up the formats to where each thing had a format or a potential like half and partial format, and they were more consistent with their rollout of it. Because right now it does feel like it's an inconsistent number. It felt like this RTN season leaned heavily into draft, and then now we're going into skirmish, which now they're sealed skirmishes, which my understanding was skirmishes were always draft. And then we had a calling that was Team Blitz. We've had callings that are Blitz. I wish callings are always constructed. Battle Hardens are their more lax event where they can kind of have fun. There. Yeah, run more events on the side. Let other things be a thing. At a calling, host a side Battle Harden. Because you can they host Battle Hardens at callings. So let that be like, okay, the calling is constructed, but the Battle Harden that happens on Saturday is Team Blitz. That's a fun format. Let it be something different and unique. Let Battle Hardens be something where they kind of throw the format around.
I would love to see if they just didn't add any. My fear right now is like they added Battle Hardened as a new like umbrella, right? I would want them to at this point establish what each of these things are. Just fucking make them their thing. Don't add more to it. Don't be like, well, what about if we want to do an event at like a smaller state where they combine 2 or 3 stores players and it's like it's in between like an RTN and a Battle Harden. Like let's call that the big stick events or some shit. Like it's like just stop.
I think that's what a Battle Harden is.
Yeah.
I mean, Battle Hardened is also an event that they've had Battle Hardens for a while, but the Battle Hardened events were always run like on calling weekends, and I think they're just
like that was the Sunday event.
Yeah, but I think they're just trying to branch out. It's just like they've done a lot of these things where they've tried to spread them out, and instead of having everything only as one major event, because it's hard for people to travel across the country. But I like the idea of maybe like finding, some of these things that they can spread out a little bit. Battle Hardens are a good event level or a good tier to allow other stores to run and give a chance to people who maybe couldn't travel. Not everybody can travel to Vegas and to these calling events and spend a whole weekend. But you can drive up if you live in the Midwest. You could drive to Minneapolis for our Battle Hardened.
I'm excited. I'm super pumped that we're having a Battle Hardened here.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome. I do. We're
gonna be broadcasting it, playing in it. All the fun stuff. Hey Dane,
we got the broadcast.
Are you ready to go to a 2-person podcast? Because I think I'm gonna meander out and start my drive to Mankato to go play a little Flesh and Blood in a little bit of a money tournament.
Yeah, for sure.
And then
so what I'm gonna have you do is just turn off.
I'm gonna remind everybody before I leave.
Yeah.
Please comment on the rotation, that very beginning, so that I know we're going live. Hop back to the beginning.
Just remind them.
I want people's feedback.
Just say it again.
Comments. about rotation. What is your feeling on rotation? It was in response to Brendan from Arsenal Pass.
Mentioning it, yeah.
Like set 1 4 heroes, set 2 3 to 4, supplemental, rotate. We're going to talk about it next week on the podcast. That will be the opening subject. We want lots of comments. I want to interact, get people, the community, what everybody's thoughts are. And also Dane, when we go on last night, we're talking about going live, goes, yeah, we'll just go early. It doesn't matter. If we get 4 people, we'll probably have 2, 3, 4 people watching. If we had 10, I'd be ecstatic. So Thank you, everybody who hopped on to watch our very impromptu live. I actually enjoy this. This is actually better than recording them. And I like the live podcast vibe. So thank you for coming on. I'm going to go play some Bravo and have some fun.
Yeah.
Peace out till next week. Enjoy these 2 clowns for the remainder.
Yeah, man, I'll be honest. I am pleasantly surprised at the transition. And there we go. Smooth as shit. I gotta fix this chat box though.
Yeah. No, I love, Chris is pointing out about the fact that, they have really done a good job sticking to their OP. I'm shocked, honestly, that they've done such a good job of trying to get an OP schedule together and how they've tried to outline it this year and stuff like that, because it is a very complex thing to build a competitive structure at the level that they're doing, and they have done a good job of trying really hard to stay to it. So yeah, James, Brendan just mentioned the idea of having a rotating format, and I think that his intention for the idea was trying to find a balance in the game. I think some people come from those games. I don't know, everybody comes from different things. We played DBS before this. There was no rotation. Before that, we played Destiny. There was rotation, but it was poorly executed and not managed well. A lot of people that play like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, people come from different backgrounds, and I think it's always an interesting discussion about rotation. So I'm curious what everybody else thinks, and maybe where they're maybe where you come from. That would be the other thing I'd be curious is when you give your opinion on rotation, give us some background on what you come from. Are you a former Magic player? Are you a Yu-Gi-Oh player? Did you play? Because I'm curious if that has some interaction with what people's perceptions are of rotation and things like that.
I feel like, do you rotate heroes then too, or are heroes always live? It's just the card pools that rotate? Because I feel like that, how does the rotation even work? Because if you're just... Think of all of the heroes that would just be gone and would have never had a chance to be played that are currently being played. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know how rotation works. Sorry. I'm curious to hear what other people's thoughts are. Either way.
Same.
Because I'm pretty open-minded about it. But we're going to leave our comments to next week.
To next week. I do think we have a couple more topics that we were intending to talk about that we can cover before we close it down. I'd be curious what people's thoughts are on that too. So one of them is I am disappointed. We mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm very disappointed that we've climbed to this level of complaining about Fi so quickly in a brand new format. And on in both directions. Now that there are people who are, standing on the wall of Fi is not a problem pre-Stubby's banhammer, and now they're complaining about the fact that Stubby's got the banhammer. And then there's people on the other side who are like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. He's still going to be broken. I hate him so much." And I don't understand. I
no, your show notes would captured it perfectly. It said, people complaining about Fi already, in parentheses, soft ? Yes, that's soft. That is, if you're complaining about Fi at this point already, stop being soft.
Yeah,
that's it. That's like, I don't know what else to tell you.
This goes back to our discussion, when they had the calling in Australia and there were some developers there. Just play the game, man. Quit being weak. Go take on the challenge. Stand up there and fight somebody. Do something about it. Find a solution. And I think that's some of the issue, and some of it I think comes from and how the game is often pitched to people. Not from the LSS level, but from other players.
Yeah.
And that becomes the primary issue is we're doing a lot of incorrect framing of the game when we're trying to sell it to our friends. And people often say, you can pick a hero and all the heroes are always good and all the heroes are super viable and all the heroes. You got to stop selling the game like that. It's a hero-centric game. And I think that can cause some of the issue too. We love our heroes. We're devout to our heroes. That also causes a little angst towards other heroes, and you have to be careful how you kind of approach it.
Dude, you got to sell it like Blood Bowl, man. Like, if there is someone that is not in the game, the best team that they can play is the team that is interesting to them. And then later on, they'll discover some teams are better than others, and later on they can make the adjustment to, okay, now I want to play the good hero. But to get them into the game, don't lie to them and say this team is highly competitive, because if it's not, right? Like, Azalea looks super cool to you, cool. Play her because she's super fun, and you can have a great time playing her. Know that she's not the best hero if you do want to be really competitive, but you can play her and win games for sure.
Yeah.
Then, if they make that
win a bounty,
if they win a bunch of shit. Which, speaking of, little injection, I'm gonna be tweeting like a roll up of all of that, and that'll just be updated probably every couple weeks, every month, just with what people are at. And we've got a fuck ton of like content creators that have put in, so that's super awesome. So, and sorry, bigger injection than I planned, but there are rules to it just to establish this, and I'm gonna put this in the tweet as well. But to stop any sort of collusion issues, this just is going to apply to the bounty. It has to be played in a 12-person or larger event, and there can't be more than 3 Azaleas at that event. So, that ratio, right? If it's a 36-person event, then there can be, we'll say 9 Azaleas. That's fine. I think that ratio is fine.
25%.
So just to stop, like, we don't want an 8-person small RTN with or whatever, like not RTN, but with 7 Azaleas. Yeah, exactly. So if those things are not adhered to, that just voids the bounty. Is what that does. You still get the living legend, and you can say Azalea first, Azalea, if that's all important to you. But don't do that, and also don't concede, because we're going to be contacting people that were at the event to confirm that there was no concession there. Earn it and get a bounty.
Chris and Anthony, I think, coming in hot. These are some great locals that we love these guys. Chris is our our fearless leader. We always refer to Chris as our fearless leader. He's the reason whenever people come to events, they're like, man, the Fab community is crazy in Minnesota.
He's the judge pimp. He's the judge pimp is what I refer to him as.
He does everything he organizes the judges. He's the Mac Daddy judge. He's the guy who like helps organize all our events. He's always posting about what's going on. But Chris made a good point. I agree that I think the game feels super fun right now. Anthony makes a good point. Let somebody pick what looks cool. When it comes to hero picking and what comes out of the gate, let them pick what looks cool, and then just don't dumpster them. That's definitely a huge thing. That feels like one of those.
That's not a well-known thing. Don't just shit all over the brand new player.
Well, I don't know. I play Kano, and I definitely have times where I go to locals and I happen upon a new player, and I feel legitimately bad.
You can also not do the things that you do, Blake. That is an option.
Well, what I typically do is try to talk them through the thing, and then I try not to make it feel as bad, so I can maybe explain what's happening and why my hero does what he does. And usually it's a lot like Dory, I found. I think when you play against a Kano early on, it's a lot like playing Dory. You're like, this deck is kind of bullshit. Like, what this deck does is not cool. And then you very quickly realize, if you understand the game, there are lots of ways to interact with it. You just don't know them. Like, you kind of have to learn how to interact with them in a specific way, because that's just the nature of
Ibarra and MHA. That's funny. James plays MHA apparently. But yeah, I do love the fact that you just bring like a stack of Arcane Barrier, and you're like, okay, you take these, just put these over your other equipments. So you're not trying to like go and grind out stomping players.
Yeah. If they don't have Arcane Barrier, I don't tell them like, oh, you don't have any Arcane Barrier? All right, let's go. I'm not excited to pummel some guy who just got his first commoner deck last week, and now he picked up a Blitz deck and added 6 cards. Like, oh god, this is not going to go. Just do it nice and slow. Just don't dumpster new players. Like that's a good thing to just keep in mind. And I think recently around here locally, we've actually had a really good mix. I think my favorite thing is the addition of more commoner format, because we talked about this, which is this idea of Blitz being like not a new player format as much as they like to frame it as. Because we used to always frame like Blitz is great for new players, and now Blitz has become super degenerate a lot of times, where it feels like Blitz is super wombo combo and you either win or lose by turn 3. But now that's the thing that we have to kind of get away from maybe Blitz as being the entry format, because Commoner is actually a good format.
Yeah, I think that the yeah, I agree with you. I think that honestly, if we're looking at it, a commoner format, regardless of, I don't know if commoner is even viable in CC. That might just be annoying. But
yeah,
CC, I think as a format, I think CC is a better. Once you get them hooked, like skirmish or Blitz should be the first game that they ever play. Got it. Once you get the buy-in a little bit, roll them right into CC. I don't think that playing Blitz over and over and just getting high rolled and low rolled and that is conducive to long-term enjoyment of the game.
And that's
I think that teaching them CC is better. But
I think that's why Commoner is a good format, because Commoner, the power level in Commoner feels much more like universally level, versus Blitz, where there's some super high rolly and super low rolly, and it goes all over the map. You can lose on turn 2 to so many decks. In the Commoner format, a lot of the degenerate cards are taken away. There's no powerful equipment block. You don't have to worry about getting fridged out by somebody. Like, I like Commoner. I think it's good. I would try it, Chris. Chris said he wants to try 40 health Commoner. I would give it a shot. I have to shout out Chris again, because I found out, I'm pretty sure Chris played Kano and Commoner. And I played Kano and Commoner, and I need to message Chris. I've been meaning to message him about what his Commoner deck for Kano looked like, because that is a deck that's very strange to play in Commoner, because so much of what you do is reliant on knowing that at some point you can win off of your Storm Striders, and not having Storm Striders was it definitely hurt. The number of times I looked at my hand and thought, oh, I can get there, and looked over and saw my Mage Master boots, it just broke my soul to not have my beautifuls. I didn't even need my tunic. I didn't even need my nodes. I wanted my Storm Striders so bad.
Yep. So next thing that we talked about that we got to re-hit this re-recorded episode is the online client. Like, this is coming back up again. I feel like it makes its rounds every 9 to 12 months of people wanting this, and the thing is, I don't disagree. Like, I sit in bed at night as I'm trying to fall asleep, and I play Hearthstone, or I'll play Legends of Runeterra, and like, I would way rather that be Fab. That'd be another way for me to get my reps in on Fab, because I love the game and I want to get better at it, but I honestly just don't have time to like sit for an hour at my laptop every night and get a bunch of games in. So being able to like do that would be awesome. That would be sweet. They've also said that that's not their intent and they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So sorry. That's kind of the end of conversation, right? Is there more to garner or glean from their statements there, Blake? Is there more to the story than I'm aware of?
I don't think so. I mean, LSS has been very clear about their intentions on online play. I think even lately they've tried to crack down on some of the armories and stuff, because they do want things to be in store. Some of that, I think, is again a misperception of people not understanding why they do what they do, in terms of how they crack down on these events, why they don't want people playing online and doing some of these webcam tournaments to grind for XP. Is they do put some stock in XP in terms of qualifying for events, and it is unfair for people to just sit on their computer for 12 hours a day because they have a day free and play armories all over the world and just grind a ton of XP. They really do want local stores. I get that people go, well, I don't have a local store that starts it. So that, again, puts the onus on you as the player to sell it. You have to do something about it.
Yeah.
I get that that's not everyone's specialty.
Yeah.
But you can go to your event. Anybody can build commoner decks. Again, that's why I've become such a staunch supporter of the commoner format. Building blitz decks is hard. I get that. It's hard to frame a deck with Majestics in the deck and no legendary equipment as a good deck because it feels weird. It doesn't feel congruent to how the game actually plays because so many heroes do rely on this idea of like using their equipment as a part of their strategy. Playing Bravo without my tectonic plating was a very strange feeling because I was realizing, oh, I have to activate Bravo and then swing my hammer, but that means I'm a resource short on pummeling. This is dumb. I want my tectonic plating back where I always have 2 floating. But that's fine. It's okay. It teaches people different mechanics of the game, how to interact with different things without having to worry about their equipment. And that's like Commoner is such a good format for that. Commoner also allows you to go to your bulk boxes or to go to the community at large online and say, hey, I want to build Commoner decks for local events and host new player events. Most stores will not say no to you hosting a Commoner event in their store. They're not going to do it, especially if they already sell the product. If they sell the product but they don't support the game as an armory night, just do it. Host an event. Invite some friends.
Yeah, that's not fair though. Like that's not fair because some places just don't have the populace or the people that are as invested in games in general, like we have in the Twin Cities metro area here. Like we're very blessed to have a lot of people that are willing to commit a lot of time to these games. And I get that there's people. If I was in rural Iowa, I would just be fucked. Like that's it because I don't have the time to go out and get things invested. I don't have that extra time in my life. So I do genuinely feel for the people that are like, this is my only source of play. That really fucking sucks. It sucks. And there are still some out there, but I don't know the answer because unfortunately people do abuse that system that you rely on to play your games. Like, and that is shitty. That is just a shitty thing. And being totally honest, I don't think that there is just a solution and people are just going to get hurt. Like it's just the way that goes. So
I will say that to me the issue is if you say I just want to play Flesh and Blood, I love the game. That's what I want to do. I want to play Flesh and Blood. And there are dozens, literally dozens of amazing Discord communities, whether it's the Fresh and Buds community or there's so many of these great communities that people are playing in and they're just playing games to play games. If you actually just care about the game, just go join a Discord, find some games and play. Have fun. You don't need to earn XP. If you're grinding XP on there because you don't have one, I feel for you. I get it. I get that some cities, some stores, some areas just don't have the setup. But I think that in that case, then it's on you to say, you know what, that means I have to travel for like an RTM so then I can earn my invite to go to nationals. I get that it becomes harder to get XP. Some people have more access to it. But I also think that LSS has kind of said and inferred that eventually they would like XP not to be a qualification for things, but instead have it be ELO. So that no longer are people grinding locals to earn the XP so that they can get to these events, but rather the ELO participants, the top participants, because that's what nationals should be. It shouldn't be somebody who can go and play a ton or they just spike all their local events because they're the best player and they have 3 stores locally and they get to play 12 rounds a week where they just beat up on scrubs. Like, to me, that's the thing is if we eventually get to that system, then XP won't matter anyway, except for people going, oh, I have a million XP. Look at how great I am.
I've sort of begun to establish in my brain like a metaphor or an analogy for the world of Flesh and Blood, and it's the creation of the universe, right? The comeuppance of this new game, right? We had the Big Bang, the explosion, right? Right now what's happening is we're getting like the first like stellar bodies forming, right? Where things are coming together. It's still just a massive, like, not shit, because they're doing it very well, but it's just like it's a little more random. This is how I'm coming to terms with the whole like seeming randomness of like their OP structure. But like I see how things are starting to form, and like, you know, in a year we're gonna have planets and we're gonna have like, you know, like there's gonna be solar systems and like there's gonna be these systems in place. So like that's kind of where I'm at now, is like it's in that settling phase where things are coming together. So I like where it's headed. I like what they're doing with it. It's still not where I think any of us want it to be, but I'm not super worried about the direction it's going in. So I think that
Yeah.
unfortunately, this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, not every cloud of dust forms a planet. Sorry, the online armories are probably going to be a thing of the past at some point.
Yeah.
And that's but the thing is like you're still going to have ability to play online. And maybe you just, barter with the wife and you get a once a month 2-hour drive with some buddies to go and play in the local across state borders. Right. And like, that's your thing. And like, but outside of that, you have to play online. And unfortunately that's not anyone's fault. That's just the way that is. And it sucks that you lost your online armory, but I will say, as a counter to the argument that I think we both agree on how hard it is in like some smaller towns and stuff to get events. As a counter to that, I will bring up the fact that we do live in an area that is a huge metro. Jason, for example, could have driven to one side of the cities in an hour and a half, I think, and then he could drive an extra 15, 20 minutes to drive down to another city that's like literally on the opposite side of the cities from him. And what's interesting is the one place he was going to go is actually a place where, huge shout out to Tyler Barrett, who's a local. And we used to see Tyler all the time. He'd come to our events. He'd come to stuff in the cities. But he lives quite a ways out west of the cities. Yep. And he started doing stuff out there. He learned to plays. And he started getting people in and encouraging people to come out and play. And now, as a result, if you look at it and you look at what he's doing, they're doing a skirmish today. They got a skirmish. And a store that I think 6-9 months ago, they didn't even have any players. They didn't even exist as a community. But he's worked so hard to get these new players in. And then when we host stuff in the cities, he'll drive the hour with those guys and bring a car full, and they'll come play in events. And they've been great to meet and get to know. And I love that. I think that's, really great. I think that's incredible to see that, because it's proof that if you are willing to put in the work, I get that it doesn't go over everywhere. And I get that sometimes you can do a lot of work for 3 or 4 people, but that's the decision you have to make. And realistically, I think the big thing is for most of us, if you look at a lot of us, most of our friends group or a big chunk of our friends group has our basis in people we've met in games. Yep. And I think that's what honestly LSS is trying to accomplish. Their goal is obviously as a company to bring people together to play great games in the flesh and blood. I get that's hard for people. I get that's not possible for everybody. But James White clearly understands, and their company clearly understands the value of people being together and how important that is for lifelong friendships and relationships. So,
and I think that, you have to realize that we're lucky. I get that we're lucky. We've got the great Chris Bates. Everybody needs to have a Chris Bates.
I want to address Chris Bates actually in the comments. So what I was talking about, like the randomness, is early on. You might not have been in here yet. Early on, we were discussing how not haphazard, because there is more organization to that, but just like the layouts of and the structure of like their callings. It's like, okay, there's a calling coming. There's another layer now where you also need to do research into what is this calling going to be? Is this going to be
format?
Is this going to be draft into CC? Is this going to be just CC? Is this going to be team blitz event? Is this going to so it's like there's a more depth to that. I would love to just be like, okay, there's battle hardens, there's callings, there's nationals, there's world, like nationals, worlds, I guess is kind of all one umbrella, but like there's these different levels, right? There's these different event headers, but that doesn't mean anything because the formats all shift within those headers as well. So I would love it if like skirmishes were blitz or sealed, like you're gonna get one or the other, right? And then there's battle hardens, and those are gonna be like your wild card format, like the team events and the whatever. And then there's callings. That's always gonna be first half draft, second half CC. Then there's like just establish some shit, because right now it seems like it's random and we end up with RTNs. Like RTNs doesn't mean anything. There's so many different formats that an RTN could be. It doesn't seem structured. It seems fluid, which
I think
honestly
right now,
just sounds like that's hard. Like if I was LSS, that sounds hard for me. That sounds like that is a difficult thing to constantly look at and evaluate and establish every time. It's like, okay, You can't just say make this a battle hardened. You have to say, okay, make it a battle hardened, and then also look at what else they've had run and see what type it should be, what type of battle hardened. It's like that sounds. Just make battle hardens a thing, establish the shit, make them planetoids, and have them just float around the sun so that people can look up and see and enjoy.
Yeah.
To stick with my analogy because it still fucking applies, and I was talking about Uranus, Jason.
I think the more realistically, the more confusing thing is that this year it's felt like a shift. It felt like last year they started to kind of build a pretty clean structure in terms of
it's not clean. That's a really good way to put it. It's not. It doesn't feel clean to me.
It feels a little messy. It feels
make it clean
a little
and organized.
disjointed.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's not perfect. I think some of that comes from the fact that they're
still
trying to figure it all out. They're establishing new things. They're trying to figure out exactly
lots
what's right,
of grace
wrong,
and leeway given them to that.
yeah.
Right now, I'm not saying this is an issue. Fix it. I'm saying it's just something that I would like to see cleaned up a little bit, which is not a demand or anything concerned.
He's being hypercritical. He wants to be canceled. That's what he's saying.
That's right.
But
I think their structure actually of like the way that they've structured their events led directly to Channel Fireball's filing for bankruptcy. I think that's been a major issue.
There we go. Always with the hottest of takes.
Anyways, that's really all we got. So I don't want to. We've already been going for an hour 20 here. I do have a Saturday, but this was fun. I honestly like this probably more than recording Thursdays. Unfortunately, it makes
it fun.
Delay to the podcast release, but we can talk about how we're always down to change shit up. Doing a little revamp at episode 100, so maybe we shift it.
Yeah, let us know what you like. That's the trick, right?
If you like being able to hop in here.
Else likes, so.
I miss our Tuesday night live streams. I was realizing that.
Yeah, just
that was such a good the interaction and the outlet for that's a guaranteed block of time I get to get games in. Because I don't have that anymore. Yeah. So
maybe we need to do it. It might just be a monthly live or every other month we do a live podcast or something or some sort of live streams that we interact with people. It'd be fun. It'd be good. See what people like. But
everybody, thank you for joining us. Please be sure to like and subscribe. If you're here, I kind of assume that you're already subscribed because you guys support us and it's awesome and we love having all the interaction in the comments. But if you haven't, please do so. It shows us that we're doing something right. And I already reached out to the Twitter winner, but congrats to Rob at It's Fab Rob for winning the Herald playset. If you're watching us, you can see that when we reach 1,600 subscribers, we're going to be giving away another Herald playset. We're currently at 1565, might be 66 now. But we're climbing steadily now. We're back on the upswing. So get your mom, get your grandpa to all subscribe, so we can give away some more shit. But
yeah,
that's it. That's all I got. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Peace.